everybody, and welcome along to PSGL Season 33, the top tier on PlayStation. And we head to a track where it's very, very difficult for your endurance. It is the Marina Bay Circuit, the Singapore Grand Prix, a track where it's been lasted over 2 hours before, and it could last up to an hour tonight if we have rain and safety cars. Let's hope we don't get to that tonight. My name is Jess Ball, and joining me by my side, as per usual, we've got Aidan Carter. Aidan, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Jess. Yeah, kind of putting out into the universe already that it could be a long one for us tonight. Because cross it's not. I don't think my voice will fully be able to withstand if we're going for an hour. But yeah, looking forward to it. Singapore's a very different circuit to what we had obviously first time round at Spain, and could be a bit of a different pecking order. And I think we mentioned it a lot of times last stream, if anybody's gone back and watched the stream already. But we mentioned it last time out that the order is kind of a little bit different to what we were expecting going into this season. So yeah, it's already been a really interesting start, and I can't wait to see how this season develops now.
Yes, we had a fantastic race last time out in Spain, and we saw a debutant take the race victory of Max. Now, he was the F3 champion from last season, and he didn't have that much high expectations going into the race, but his main expectations is to win the title. And he said to me tonight that he was very, very happy with his performance, but he did downplay his expectations again going into tonight. But Max looking like the early favourites, but there's certain drivers that we're still yet to see their true pace, and we still have drivers like Kian who had good pace, but it got involved in incidents last week. The incident between Marcados and Kian, that it did not get reported, so I'm guessing there's no bad blood between the two of them yet.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it. I think if we watch the incident back as well, it's kind of a 50-50 kind of incident, isn't it? I think the only one that really came out of the incident with any sort of major issue was Kian, and if you were going to put any blame on someone, it was probably Kian. So I'm not surprised it wasn't reported. Marcados didn't really suffer from it in the end. He got a little bit of damage, but he still managed to finish third either way. So I think it's not a surprise to me that it didn't get reported, but it's good that we've got through the first round without really any major incidents going on, and we get into Singapore, and hopefully that will be again the same tonight. And like we were mentioning, there was definitely a few people obviously got off to a great start. Like you said, Max and Kian had great pace, even if Kian did get the result, but there's a lot of people still yet to kind of show their hand so far this season. I think the one we mentioned a lot last week was Marlon, was one who came into the season with a lot of expectation, having had such a really strong debut season pace-wise last season, and nothing really materialised for him in Spain. But he is apparently getting used to a new rig, so I think that may be a little bit of a long process for him to try and get back to where he was. So yeah, a lot of interesting storylines going into round two.
Yeah, just missed out on points last week is Marlon. He's kind of sitting for 11 in a championship, but unsurprisingly, the order you can see on your screen is the order that they finished the race in terms of the results. No change in the results as of last week. There was one stewards report, which we'll go into a little bit about that in a minute, but Marcados getting that podium. It was the second time in a while in PSGL where he didn't convert his pole into a win. The last time he did that, Abu Dhabi, he got pole but finished second. Done exactly the same last week in Spain. Then we got Aurelian on debut, who did very, very well in F1, who got a podium as well. Our highest F2 drive that came from last season. And Asako, well, he's fourth in the standings. He's not going to be raced for the entirety of the season. He decided to call it a day for this season for reasons that we're not going to say on stream. But replacing him in the AlphaTauri for the rest of the season is Rick. So good to have him on board. He was a reserve last week, and the general rule of thumb is if you are first reserve at the beginning of the season and you have a good attendance when you your first race as a reserve, then you get to see if it comes up. So, yeah, congratulations to it. Other drivers to point out that have done well last week. The Maya, who got 6 points, Nando, who had good pace as well. Deso with some good points on his first race back as a full-time driver. And Tom just missed out on some decent points. He struggled a little bit again last week as well. But, yeah, some good storylines going into tonight as well. And we'll see what Rick could do in his first race as a full-time driver.
Yeah, definitely be interesting to see what he can do. It's now only one round in now, and he's now into it for the full season. So definitely maybe a bit of a change of mindset for Rick now. I think being a first reserve for Rick, obviously, you're not going to be guaranteed a spot in every single race. So I think there's maybe a lot less pressure on you to perform, and you can just kind of jump in as and when needs be. But now that he's going to be competing in the full season, I think his mind shift will definitely switch now to being sure that he's able to be consistent every week and trying to score points. So we may see a bit more out of Rick this week. Unfortunately, didn't really get off to a great start in Spain. But I mean, like I said, it was a different mindset, so we may see something different of Rick tonight. And of course, it is a completely different circuit in Singapore, and Singapore is definitely a bit of a challenge, isn't it? I mean, along with the endurance we've already mentioned, there's 23 corners, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, this year for Singapore, that will be different. We will be losing part of the final sector, of course, this year, so there is going to be a bit of a change. That little section where you go underneath the grandstand is disappearing this year, so that could make the race maybe even more interesting this year. But yeah, Singapore's always a bit of a staple of the calendar, isn't it? First ever night race of Formula One, and now it seems that every other race is a night race at this point. So Singapore really set the trend, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And Spain, we saw the changes in real life last year as well, and it is on the game. And obviously the final corner is not on this year's game, whereas obviously in real life it will be. Same for Singapore as well, so we're seeing a trend with that as well. Typical for the first 2 rounds of the season. So without further ado, let's get into the racing and qualify. For those of you that are new to PSGL, PSF1, it's not like the top two on PC. We have short qualifying, 18 minutes, and the fastest driver at the end of it will take pole position. As Aidan was saying, 23 turns, 5.063 kilometres long, and it has 14 to the left, 9 to the right. 2 DRS zones. There's 1 detection zone in the middle of turn 21, 22, leading up to the start-finish straight where you use the DRS, and then at 1 detection point heading towards turn 4 and 5 where you use it from turns 5 to turn 7. And believe it or not, the physical stress that the drivers are under in real life, they cause them to lose as much as 3 kilograms over a course of a race, which I have to say is quite crazy, not gonna lie, but I'm trying to find out who's gonna be the first person to set a lap time. Jerome is on a lap time at the moment. I believe he's reserving tonight, so good to have him with us. He's filling in for Louis, who again is not here this week as well, so yeah, we're already using pretty much almost all our reserves in the space of a season, which I think just goes to show that they're all as dedicated as they can as he heads towards turn 7. Jerome is a person that got moved up, of course, was a champion in PSGL in the past as well. He's got a lot to live up to, but he doesn't like this track. And it's his first time racing around this track with no assist, so he's not expecting much.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a bit of a baptism of fire racing around here with no assist, isn't it? It's definitely a difficult circuit to get right. 23 corners, like we mentioned, the second most of the calendar, of course, behind Jeddah. So that's obviously not going to be great if it's the first time you're running no lines. So that's, yeah, it's going to be a bit of a learning experience for your own, but there's definitely a lot of potential in there. We've seen that he's had some pace. I've raced against him personally myself in the past. He's been fast for a good amount of time now, so there's definitely some potential there for your own. So he's definitely going to be one to watch tonight. Rick, though, he's up to the top of the timesheets. As I say that, Max jumps to the top of the timesheets, but where is the surprise in that as he goes to the top? We're just going to see who's next across the line. I think Deso will be next across the line in the Haas. Had a relatively solid performance last time out in Spain, got some points on the board, which was a good start to his season. He crosses the line, though, only P9 at the moment. I say that, P9, 36.2, is only 4 tenths off pole at the moment, and you would expect this track, the field, to be a bit more spread out, but at the moment, it's quite close together as Jerome manages to put it on the front row. So you're saying he doesn't like the track, and he's new, and he's a reserve, but that's a great start to his qualifying session to be on the front row of the grid in his first ever one. Trying to see who is next. Marcados crossed the line, but Marcados did invalidate his run, so he's not got a lap time on the board. Stefano. Lovely lap from Stefano, goes on to the top of the timesheets. Next is Fabi. Fabi goes P6, so not a bad time there from the Mercedes driver. I think the only other driver on that lap at the moment is Nando, by the looks of things, or the other Steph, actually. He now goes P6, and Nando will be the last person to finish a lap time in this session. Frankie has also invalidated. Rowan's not left the pit lane yet, I believe. So here comes Nando around the final corner in the Aston Martin. Where can he put the Aston Martin? Wow. Provisional pole. Lovely lap from Nando. Third person into the 0.7s. Good lap there from Nando. When Nando was one last year, wasn't it? He started off a bit slow, but as the season went on, he started to build confidence and was getting regular points positions. Now this is kind of the logical next step for Nando, isn't it? To try and get into the podium fight more regularly, and this is a great way to start off.
Well, there's one driver that races in the Aston Martin, and its name is also Nando, and it's Fernando Alonso, who did well in real life, of course, in Bahrain. So maybe Nando is channeling his inner Fernando Alonso in this one in the Singapore Grand Prix. So good to see him up there. Now, to put it into perspective, pole time from F2, because I was watching a bit of F2 before we moved up to F1, was a 1:35.588. So we're not that far from the pole time that F2 set, so I think we can see a lot quicker lap times at the moment, as the top 7 only separated by a few tenths per second, same with the top 11, and you got small gaps between P12 to P14 as well, so this is going to be quite intense. I wouldn't expect it to be that close due to the fact that it is a long track, but I'm guessing since it is a long track, they put a lot of practice in as well, and I am expecting to be a lot of safety cars around there. An interesting fact about safety cars, in the real life Grand Prix, the safety cars made at least one appearance in every single Grand Prix held to date, so it is of course quite common. A few yellow flags, by the way, as people are moving out the way. A few drivers were asked, by the way, on how they were expecting to be doing around, obviously, Singapore, as I think we've got a few people on their in-laps at the moment. Fabi was talking a little bit about qualifying, actually, and he said it was going to be interesting to see who has got the biggest balls to nail a good qualifying lap and weather changes maybe during the race. Well, we've seen weather changes in the race before. We've seen that in a lot of PSGL commentaries I've done, mostly in F2, it's mostly rain. The safety car could change the order as well, and quite a few people have been struggling quite a lot. A few people wanting a podium, a few people haven't practiced at all, so it's just minor expectations coming into this one as well. But 10 minutes to go, Nando on pole, Max in P2. We still haven't seen Max true pace around there, but Max is expecting a podium, but surely he'll probably go for a win.
Yeah, considering his performance in Spain, he pretty much dominated that race, didn't he? Especially from the second half onwards. So, and Max did mention to us that Singapore is a better track for him than Spain. So, yeah, going to be interesting to see what Max can do. It's a bit ominous, but so far for qualifying, great start for Aston Martin as a team. Obviously, Nando provisional pole, Stefano up there P3 at the moment, so doing a good job. Tom up there in 4th as well. Nice to see Tom. Obviously, he struggled a lot last season and in Spain, but he's up there now in 4th position in this qualifying session at the moment, so having a decent start. And by the way, Frankie P5 did that lap on his second lap on that set of tyres, so he must have invalidated early on that first run and been able to come back onto the second run and still have some good life in his tyres. And talking about weather changes, I think people are kind of always think about Singapore as always being a dry race, but of course we've had 2017, of course, was weather affected. Last year's Singapore Grand Prix was heavily weather affected to the point where it had to be shortened by quite a bit, the race. But I think people forget that actually the Singapore Grand Prix is held usually at the very start of monsoon season for the region, so it's actually quite bizarre that we've not had more wet weather Singapore Grand Prix. So it's definitely, I think people come into Singapore thinking that weather's not really going to be a factor, but actually it's got more of a factor than you would maybe see from a lot of other circuits of the similar nature. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some sort of wet weather interference either tonight in qualifying or maybe in the race as well. It is pretty common around Singapore, so we'll wait and see. I'm on board, by the way, with Aurelian. He's on a lap at the moment and he's a 10th and a half up in the first sector, which at the moment would put him almost into the top 10. So yeah, crazy to think that we've got a 23 corner track and it is, in terms of lap distance, in terms of race distance, going to be the longest race of the season, but in qualifying they're only separated by less than half a second. So at the moment it's doing, the field as a whole, we're doing very well. Aurelian though is now 4/10 of a second up, so he's finding a lot of time on this second run.
Haster Knott into turn 14, heading towards the start of turn 15 then, before we head into the braking zone of turn 16. It makes it awkward sometimes because you've got to try and avoid the inside curbing. There's blind apexes going under the tunnel section as well. You've got to be careful not to hit the outside wall in a few places. Now you're going to be heading toward the final few corners on turn 22 and 23. It's a long right-hander coming up. Is it going to be good enough for pole? Oh, yes, wow. It is. 135.685, and he's definitely the class of the field at the moment. Who's next across the line? We've got an Aston Martin who's about to start his lap. That is Stefano about to start his run. We've got one of the AlphaTauris about to finish off his run. It is not Ryan because he's in the final sector. It is Rick, our newest four-time driver. Let's see what he can do. Nope, he's about to start a lap as well. It's hard to tell who's about to start a lap and who's in the middle of their lap. So I believe it will be Rowan who will be next to cross the line. Last at the moment, yet to set a lap time, has invalidated his runs. Only P19, so he's struggling a little bit. We got Harry, who came across the line in P2. So at the moment, we got Shizou 1-2. They're not in the same, obviously, constructor, but they're in the same esports team. The Shizou boys will be very, very happy about that. Because Izzle, who needs to get his season off to a better start, I believe, invalidated his run, and he's only done a 1:36.1 for his first run, so he can't improve. Markados goes to the top of the timing sheet with a 1:35.6. Then it will be, no, but it's not Aurelian because he's been on a lap. Namaya has unfortunately invalidated. Max, last week's race winner, has already beaten the F2 pole time by a few attempts, 1:35.3. That is crazy at the moment. I'm surprised to see Kian not up there. He's invalidated once again, so he's going into the pit lane. Wow, Max beating Markados' time by 3 attempts is a statement.
Yeah, that is a massive lap time for Max there to put 3/10 on the field. The rest of the field are only half a second apart, and he's managed to put 3/10 on second place. That is a storming lap there from Max, and then at the point of qualifying. I highly doubt anybody's going to get anywhere near that lap time by the end of the session. I think Max could probably end up just not going again and saving another set of softs if he wants to. That is a brilliant lap time from him. I'm looking at Nando. Nando is not improving at the moment on his lap. It's going to have to be a mighty final sector if he is to improve, but he's not found anything at the moment, which is kind of interesting, as Rick now goes onto the front row in the Alpha Tauri. So lovely lap there, and as I say that, it's now an Alfa Romeo 1-2 as Frankie now goes into second position and Tom puts himself into third in the Ferrari. So Alfa Romeo 1-2, Max and Frankie leading the way at the front of the field. Tom now into third position, and the field is completely shuffled around once again. It's completely different to what it was about 5 minutes ago. So yeah, kind of up and down and all over the place. And again, yeah, some people a little bit out of position at the moment, like you mentioned. Kian hasn't really put the most competitive time on the board. He's going out early for his final run by the looks of things. Jensen's still down there in 17th. Marlon again struggling at the moment, down in 18th. I think, though, the biggest surprise, definitely Kazizel. 19th at the moment is nowhere near where you'd expect Kazizel to be. So, yeah, got to keep an eye out to see what he can do in these final runs. But, yeah, that is a mega lap time for Max. I don't see anybody beating that.
Well, there will be a few drivers that will be concentrating on challenges soon, because it's not that long until challenges start on the PS platform. So maybe a lot of drivers are just focusing on that. So it may give the chance for the people that are not in challenges to maybe step up to the mark as well. I believe Max is in challenges, so that is a statement right there, I have to say. And I was looking at Rick's answers whilst I was riding on board with his lap, and I have to say, there was a few people that were struggling. Rick finds it fun to compete around Singapore, which is great to see, and he thinks it's all about qualifying, which I have to say, I have to agree, and he hopes he'll have his first good qualifying of this game, and he's currently sitting in P4 at the moment, so I have to say, that's a very good qualifying, and he felt that his debut last week wasn't too bad, even though he didn't score a point. It was just about making those small steps into F1. Some people may want points straight away, but some people may just want to get used to, obviously, the way the tier is and how much people can develop and stuff like that as well. And yeah, so there are quite a few people that obviously will need to step it up, of course, and I'm just looking at Stefano's answer as well about Singapore. Stefano is also a driver who's very confident in qualifying, currently sitting in P10. There's only a few attempts separating himself and a P2 position right now, so quite a lot of the answers seem to translate into actual pace at the moment, which is quite realistic at the moment. I thought it would be way out of the ordinary, but at the moment it seems quite realistic for quite a lot of the drivers.
Yeah, definitely it looks like it, doesn't it? And yeah, it's kind of also another thing to notice as well. We're seeing some of the kind of the drivers at the forefront of the championship who did well in Spain continuing to do well here. Of course, Max at the moment on pole position. Markados again up there once again, P5. Aurelian as well, obviously podium in the first race in his debut season in F1 as well. He's currently P6. So the top three from Spain aren't really struggling here. They're still doing a good job into the second round as well. So that is interesting. But we're also seeing some new people at the front like Frankie and Tom as well. So yeah, it's nice to see some mix arounds in the field and seeing some people start to do some good performances here. As I'm just seeing, I think Jensen's just started a lap, but Jensen is going to encounter some horrendous traffic here in the first sector if he's not careful. He's going to have to get past this Alpine if this Alpine can recognise that he's there. Oh my word, he nearly runs straight into the back of the Alpine. I don't know if Jensen had to lift off for that, but I feel like Jensen maybe went out a little bit too early for his final run here because he's going to get severely hampered throughout his lap as Kian, by the way, is coming to finish his final run in qualifying, but it's not looking anything really special, unfortunately, from the Haas as he rounds the final corner. But as I say that, he puts in a storming final sector and manages to put it on the front row. He gained 3.5 tenths in the final sector alone. So lovely final sector from Kian. He goes onto the front row, and just like in Spain, Max and Kian for Talent Factory are right at the front.
And not just a Talent Factory 1-2, it's a Talent Factory 1-2-3. And I have to say, of all the esports teams on this game so far, I think Talent Factory tend to be one of the strongest. They have won quite a lot of events as an esports team as well, and they have a very strong unit on the PlayStation side at least as well. So their PlayStation side is probably the strongest out of all the esports teams I know of, which is great to see. And they're really training up their drivers as well, the more experienced drivers of the likes of Rudy and Legend, training up the newer drivers like Max and Kian to be better drivers, coming up the ranks and now moving on to the top tier. So that is why being a part of esports teams is so important for your development. If you can show that you want to develop and improve, you probably will get signed for a team, and you could get quicker and quicker, as Khalil's about to start his final run now. 40 seconds to go. Who do you think is going to get pole position at the moment? We got someone wanting Volakongan to do well. Volakongan the GOAT. We got CPI Stretch that wants Kian to do well. We got Fezzo that's rooted for Talent Factory. So, the Talent Factory boys, I'm guessing. Christopher Aimable that's rooting for Aurelian, and it is rooting for your own at the moment. Luisi is saying hi guys, hello. Liam is rooting for Nando, and also Luisi saying please Kian has to win. So those are our predictions so far. 2 retirements, we've got Harry and Jensen. The checker flag is about to drop. We've got laps coming in thick and fast, Aiden.
Yeah, let fucking fast as Nando goes up onto the front row in the Aston Martin, so he manages to bridge the gap slightly between the top of Max and the rest of the field. So a good lap there from Nando onto the front row. Volakongan was the first to finish a lap, by the way. P13 is the best that he can manage, unfortunately. Next across the line is Rowan, who manages to put it P11. Next across the line, Deso in the Haas puts it P7. Rick is invalidated. He will not be improving on his run. Next will be Fabi. Fabi now goes P6. So they're all trying to go for P6, it seems, at the moment, as Max somehow finds even more time and goes even faster. I was on board with Markados. Markados, though, in turn 21 has hit the wall. I don't think he's going to be improving. He's invalidated his time and spun to boot as well. So Markados here, P9 is the best that he can hope for, but there's more people behind him coming faster and faster as well. So Markados here might be quite a way down the field as Kazizzle at the death manages to put it on the front row.
Kazizzle finding the time down to the wire. He was down in about 19th place, but he was like, hold your horses, you haven't seen the last of me, and he definitely wants to improve. Let's see if Tom can find some time to get in on the front row. We will see in the Ferrari. Ferrari's done well before. He remained 7th at the moment. Next across the line it won't be Jerome because he's got a front wing, but his teammate Aurelian comes across the line in P4, 135.4 for him. Volakongan obviously just set a lap a moment ago. He's 5 seconds down on his in lap. So Max continuing where he left off last week. He got the win last week, and guess what? He got his first pole position of the season.
First pole position of the season, dominant fashion as well. It ended up being a little bit closer than it was a few minutes ago, but that is still a stellar lap from Max to put it on pole position. And hats off to Kazizzle as well, saving what could have been a really bad qualifying for him. He was right down at the back, like you mentioned. Puts in a really strong lap at the end of the session as well to put in P2. So a good lap there from Kazizzle, and of course plenty more stories to look at for the rest of this field as well. But there was a lot of people a little bit out of position, especially Markados. Second place last time out, only 12th on the grid this time around. He's only 3.5 tenths off pole, but at Singapore that somehow put him 12th on the grid.
Yeah, that just shows how close F1 can be on the PlayStation, and it's 7 tenths between everybody, 5 tenths between the top 19. So here is your order then to start the Singapore Grand Prix. 31 laps are awaiting us here tonight. We got Max, Kazizzle, Nando, your top 3. Aurelian, Namaya, Kian, Frankie, Tom, Fabi, Rick, your top 10. Then we got Deso, Markados, Jerome, Stefano, Rowan, Harry, Volakongan, Marlon, and Jensen round up your grid. Everyone managed to set a lap time. A few people retiring late on, so they couldn't get their final laps in. But it is all good. But before we go to the main event, let's have a quick word from our title sponsor, GT Omega. See you in 30 seconds, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL PSF1. We've had 9 manufacturers in the top 10, with Alfa Romeo being the only team to have 2 drivers in the top 10. It is Max who takes his first pole position of the season. Can he take his second win, or will someone else have an answer to it? No sign of what the weather is going to do for today's race, but I do see dry tyres in the garage. A few mediums, a few hards, so we're going to have to wait and see. The 5 red lights are on for the second round of the championship for season 33, and we are underway. Max gets a great start, so does Cazidel. Let's see who else gets a great start heading down into T1. All looking clean so far for the top 3, heading towards turn 1 and 2. Very, very windy, twisty section. People in the background doing okay as well. A few people squabbling for positions as they head to make their way to round 4 and 5 now. We'll probably see people go for overtakes here as they head towards turn 7. We could potentially see Cazidel try and go for it, but Max is already pulling away with his straight line speed already. We got one that has it in the background trying to go down the inside of Rick, then heading towards turn 7, heading towards turn 8 now. The start of sector 2, and looks like Deso is in P10, but for how much longer? Rick is not going to give this up without a fight. Nope, Deso is up into P10. A strong start for him so far. We've got Jeroen, who's looking like he's going to go for a move here, heading towards the Singapore sling. He doesn't look like he's going to do it on this occasion, but surprisingly, it's been a relatively clean start so far.
Yeah, relatively tame start throughout the field. The only person that had a really poor start, unfortunately, was Markados. He's down to the back of the field. Oh, we've got a stack-up effect, though, at the hairpin, unfortunately. I don't know if there was contact there. I think Volokongan maybe got half spun in front of the field, and those at the back of the field have all dropped back a little bit. I think there's someone with damage. Rowan's got damage, unfortunately, in all of that in the AlphaTauri. I think Stefano in the Aston Martin potentially has damage as well, but bit of a stack-up effect there, unfortunately, at the hairpin, but that's kind of part and parcel of the corner, especially if you make contact with another driver. That is a real shame, but yeah, a few drivers at the back of the field having poor starts. Markados, one of those who had a half spin coming out of turn 3, which is why he was initially down in 19th. He's managed to gain 4 places in that carnage, but yeah, he's down to the back of the field, sadly, so not a great start for the man second currently in the championship, as at the end of lap 1, look at the lead that Max is pulling. He's 1 second clear of Kazizel, and Max hasn't used any really in ERS to do it, and we kind of see this a lot from Kazizel, don't we? Kazizel does like to sit at the very tail end of the DRS zone behind a driver in front. He doesn't like to follow closely to a driver in front, but already it's costing him bid time. Max is just driving away from him at the front of the field. We kind of saw something similar in Spain. Max is doing the same again. He's already broken DRS range. We're only a lap in.
You're raising an interesting point about Kazizel, actually, because Kazizel felt like that it wasn't too bad of his race, but he felt like he could have gone better last week, so he's treating this race as a bit of fun. He doesn't want to crash because the walls are quite close around here as they head towards turn 10 now, the Singapore sling, so maybe that's probably why Kazizel has qualified so high, because he's treating this race as a bit of fun. Maybe hardly any expectations are on his shoulders, so maybe he's just waiting until the prime opportunity just to burn the ERS. He probably thinks that Max will be burning some ERS already, but he is not. He's only used a bit of ERS, so that could be interesting. And if you're saving too much ERS, Max could already start to pull away and it'll be too late to catch him up. So he's got to do something at least. We've got 3 drivers that have gone into the pit lane after some skirmishes on lap 1. That is Marlon, Stefano and Rowan. Let's hope their races go a little bit better than lap 1. Everyone else started on the hard compounded tires. Pretty much everybody started on the hard compounded tires. You do not want to touch the soft at all around here. They don't last a long time at all due to tire temps. They only last 4 laps, even though in the game it says it lasts 9, but the game is a liar because realistically it can only last 4. So yeah, that is why everyone is on the hards, and they can stretch it for a little bit longer. It can pretty much last 28 laps. So if we get a safety car, if there's rain towards the end, they can stretch those hards just for a little bit longer, but they have to save a little bit at their tyre temps. One driver that's had a very good race so far is Nando. He's up to third place at the moment, even though he hasn't gained or lost any place. He's managing to hold his own at the moment in P3. Remember, we were saying about him, his next step is getting onto that podium. Well, he's definitely on that next step at the moment, but he's got the pressure of Aurelian and the Maya behind him, and Kian as well, who are all quick drivers.
Yeah, doing a good job as Nando, and yeah, like we said, it's the logical next step, isn't it? Nando was good at scoring mid kind of top 10 performances last season, but was never close enough to fight for a podium. But that's really the goal for this season, is start fighting for podiums and potentially wins if they can fall in his favour. And at the moment, doing a good job in third behind, because there's always got a comfortable gap, like you mentioned, to Aurelian behind, and Nemaya again. Nemaya, one that struggled a lot last season, had great raw pace, of course, picked up a win on track in Zandvoort last season, but lost it due to a speeding penalty in the pit lane. But he had great pace, he just could never get the result, and that is why Red Bull struggled so much as a team last year in PSF1. But this time around, solid first race of the season. I think he picked up a P5 in Spain, and he's again currently running P5 at the moment. So Nemaya having a solid, consistent start to the season at the moment, if he can stay in this position for the latter stages of this race. But we're now into that settling down period, aren't we? DRS has now been enabled, everybody's on the same tyre, so you're not going to see major pace differences. Everybody is now just kind of sitting and saving maybe some ERS, making sure they're not burning their tyres and waiting for the pit phase or potentially a safety car. But either way, you look at it, Max is just driving away into the distance, isn't he? He's got about 3 or 4 tenths of Kazizel a lap, it seems, at the moment. Kazizel's not looking like he wants to push to try and catch, so Max is just going to continue to drive off into the distance as it stands. And it's already becoming, at the moment, as it stands, it's already kind of becoming a one-horse race, because Max is comfortably clear of Kazizel behind. And it's not like Kazizel's slow, because Kazizel's not got any pressure from the drivers behind. He's not really under pressure at all from Nando, so it's not as if Kazizel was holding up the train behind. Max is just playing faster than everybody else, as those on the mediums at the back are setting fastest laps.
Yeah, I have to say, I've got to agree. I think, because if Max wasn't in the lobby, obviously Kazizel would be the one leading, but Max, I have to say, has come a long way since he was starting playing the F1 games, and has come a long way since starting in PSGL many moons ago. We've seen many drivers come through the ranks that have possibly been in F3, been in F4, started quite low, then went into challenge for the title, then they went to F2, then they moved up to F1. It's just that logical step. Max, though, basically is doing something that has exceeded my expectation at the moment. He's producing a drive that Max Verstappen fans will be happy about, because Max Verstappen always likes to produce dominant races because he also has a good car. But you don't have to just have a good car, you also have to have good driving pace as well, and that is definitely what Max is showing, 2 seconds at the moment. But we got to draw our attention to the guys at the back as well, as to who else has gained the most places. Wolakongan and Jensen. Wolakongan all gained 4 places, same with Jensen as well. But we are starting to see Markados at the back challenging Wolakongan. But Wolakongan is closing in on Stefano. But with these higher tire temperatures and the track temperatures that they are facing, it's going to be hard for these drivers to really start to get some overtakes done. So that's why a lot of people are just saving some ERS at this moment in time. That's definitely what Wolakongan is doing right now. Markados is using up a little bit on the straights, but then not using up too much. Relatively balanced is Markados, but surely he wanted something higher than that to gain where he is at the moment. But yeah, pretty much everybody from P3 downwards is in a DRS train all the way down to 17th. Then we got the bottom 3, of course. So it's just who's going to blink first. If anyone makes a mistake, I think everybody will go to pounce at the moment. So yeah, someone just wanted to hard the tyres compound sharing again. But there you go. Everyone's on hards apart from my bottom 3, and yeah, even on the hards, Max is absolutely killing it at the moment. Same with the lights near the back as well. For the fight for the final point is between Jerome, Stefano, Rick and Adesso at the moment. So we'll see who can get those final points places.
Yeah, definitely something to look out for the rest of this race, isn't it? To see if Rick can get his full campaign off to a good start. Jerome, of course, in his first ever race in F1 is trying his best at the moment. He is just starting to lose touch a little bit with the drivers in front, and Stefano, the FVR Stefano in the McLaren is right behind him. So yeah, I think Jerome now great in qualifying, but I think the lack of knowledge on assists will show up more in the race than it will in qualifying. Being able to do 31 laps around a race of Singapore without making many mistakes that's going to be the challenge more than qualifying is for Jeroen. We know Jeroen's got great raw speed. Has he got the consistency to be able to try and do that for 31 laps? So that's going to be the real challenge for Jeroen. But P12 at the moment is a really solid debut considering everything. So yeah, definitely one to keep an eye on for the rest of this race. I think this is the kind of time in commentary where I get a little bit upset that we don't have these kind of mixed strategies anymore in this F1 game. Of course, I think it is commonly known, as we know, that the best strategy now is just start on the hard compound tyres and go to the mediums at the midpoint of the race. That's just kind of the meta as to what is the fastest way through these races. I really wish that there was a kind of a mix of strategies, whether you could start on the mediums and go to the hards and that would work, or a two-stop would work. I wish there was a bit of more of a mix of strategies on this game, because this is this kind of track where it's really difficult to overtake, and this level of pace difference, which is so small between the field, means that you're not really going to get any overtaking unless anyone makes a mistake. And it's PSF1, so we're not likely to see that. So this is kind of where I wish we had more strategy options available to us as commentators and drivers, but unfortunately that's not the way of the world, unfortunately, and it's not really the way of the world in Formula 1 either. So hopefully we can see maybe a bit more movement as we've got a yellow flag. And oh! Wow, just as I say, PSF1 drivers don't make mistakes. Second place, all on his own, crashes into the wall in the tunnel section. Wow, full safety car. That is far too early, though, for those to come in onto the medium compound tyres. They will not make it to the end of this race. Who is into the pits? Namaya's pitting. Wow, okay. That is a bold strategy call from Namaya. The only thing I can think of here for Namaya is that he's pitting and he's going to do a double stint on mediums. That is my only thought process for those that are coming in now. Namaya's in, Jeroen's in, Stefano's in as well. Volokongan is into the pit lane as well. Markados and Harry stay out at the back of the field. So Namaya's going to be 12th here. That's my only thought process, is Namaya now is just going to do two stops on the mediums and use the fresh pace of the mediums to try and come back through the field a bit in this first part of this safety car restart. But yeah, that is a bizarre mistake from Kazizo. He had such a strong qualifying, was having such a strong start to the race, and just all on his own, a relatively slow corner, just outbroke himself and put it in the wall.
Yeah, I mean, like, maybe he might have lost concentration, he might have lost this braking point, I don't know, or maybe his tyres were getting a little bit overheated potentially as well, but it's very rare to see someone make a mistake like that for Kazizo, so that is a bit of a shame, because I was expecting him to fight for a podium at least, maybe for second place, but his race unfortunately is over, and he will need to focus really about what's going to happen in races to come, because he only scored 4 points last week, which is still good, but he definitely would have wanted higher, that's for sure. So yeah, that's a bit of a shame. I'm surprised a lot more people pitted, to be honest, and I'm almost certain people are going to do exactly the same, do a double medium stint, or maybe the people are thinking safety cars breed safety cars. They think there could be another safety car on the horizon, and they could go on to another set of mediums halfway through this race when another safety car comes out, but you can't really predict when there's going to be a safety car, really. So that's my other prediction, that if they are pitting now, they're thinking there's going to be another safety car. Well, there's a few drivers that predict there could be safety cars, Farby being one of them, and Farby is the one that hasn't pitted, so maybe means there's going to be another one, and you only have to do one stop and go for the mediums. But we've seen in the past though, Wade, and even though people are pitted on for softer tyre, the ones on the hards were just able to keep position for quite a long time, and Singapore's track position, we've noticed, is just so key. And we've heard from the drivers as well that it is going to be a dry session, so there's no threat of rain. I think the ones on the mediums are going to hope, the ones on the hards are just going to struggle, but we've seen someone go into the pits again of Jeroen and Stefano. Maybe they're just pitting now to get a bit of hard tyres into going. Well, we'll see. They've gone to the set of hards they were going to be on before. Surely they're not going to go to the end of the race on that.
That seems to be their plan. I think that seems to be their plan, that they're going to try and go to the end potentially on their set of hards. But 30 laps on a set of hards? I mean, we've seen it in previous games be possible. Of course, in the previous games, people could do a softer hard strategy and do maybe 28, 29 laps on a set of hards and it work. But I don't know if that works in these cars. We've not really seen a strategy like this around Singapore on this game. So I don't know. I don't know if this is going to work. Of course, what this does do eliminate. Of course, if there's no safety cars from this point onwards, this does eliminate, of course, all that pit stop waiting time. And this is quite a slow pit lane here. It's a slow entry. The pit speed is quite slow here. It's only 37 miles an hour, I believe. And then it's also a slow exit to the pit lane as well. So all in all, it's about a 25-second pit lane loss here. So if your own and Stefano can get themselves 25 seconds in hand, then that is definitely something that is worth trying, especially for someone like Jeroen who's not a full-time driver. But I don't think those hards are going to make it to the end with any pace, just as the same as I don't think any of the medium runners are getting to the end of the race on these set of tyres. The people you do have to look out for, though, in my opinion, are those that are at the back who had the damage at the start. They've put back on the hards that they only did one lap for, so those hards are pretty much brand new on those drivers, and they've got pretty much a normal hard stint to do in this race. So look out for Marlon, Stefano and Rowan in this race. If they can keep good pace, I think they're in a better position in this race than Jeroen and Stefano are.
Yeah, potentially, because they don't have to pit again, whereas the guys in front of them have to pit again, the ones who pitted onto the mediums. And as the safety car comes in this lap, I'd just like to tell you a little bit about our title sponsor, GT Omega. You can get 5% off GT Omega products by using the code PSGL. To find out more information, just put the command in the chat, !GT Omega, as it says in the overlay. So make sure you check them out. That'll be absolutely fantastic, as Max is going to be leading the field away for this safety car restart. Then he's going to be the one controlling the pace. He was the one who didn't want that safety car to happen, but he's going to prove that he can pull away. And look at that. He already is. He's using his ERS and he's had a stonking restart. Everyone else has been caught off guard. Kian has had a very good restart. Down the inside into turn number 1. And he's already up into 3rd place. Aurelian down into 4th place. Another person that's had a good restart is Namaya, doing very, very well on those medium tyres, but struggling to close in on Markados as well. Volakongan getting absolutely squabbled by likes of Jensen and Jerome at the moment. They're all in this big train, but we thought that Max was going to get pressured in that safety car restart, but I was definitely wrong. The gap already is 1.2 seconds. We could see Jensen always trying to go down the inside of Volakongan into turn 7, but to no avail, unfortunately. But Max is absolutely flying at the moment. He didn't need to be worried after all.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to matter what you throw at Max. He just deals with it and pulls a 1 second gap immediately, doesn't he? That is a brilliant restart. He kind of went just before turn 22, and I think it caught Nando a bit off guard. I think Nando was maybe expecting to go really late, and he didn't really react very quickly. Kian reacted brilliantly. We got a yellow flag. That's Stefano in the McLaren who's gone around. I don't know if he maybe tried to move on someone or whether he's just spun on his own, but Stefano in the McLaren now down to the back of the field. I don't think he's picked up any damage, so he can continue on. But yeah, Max just launched at the restart. Nando didn't react. Kian did react. Kian reacted very well and got past Aurelian. He was basically side by side all the way through 22 and 23. So Kian launched that one brilliantly and timed it to perfection to make sure he didn't pass before the start-finish line. So up to 3rd for Kian, lovely move. And Aurelian taking a bit of time to warm up to things after the safety car restart. He did have Frankie right on the back of him at turn 7, but Frankie wasn't close enough for a move, and the gap has just spread a little bit ever so slightly. So now we've got to keep an eye on those medium runners to see what they can do, haven't we? We've got to see what their pace is at the moment. Namaya already passed Harry, and now he's onto the back of Markados, but I fear that there's not enough of a tyre difference between those mediums and the hards of the drivers in front that they're actually going to have that much of a pace advantage. Got to remember, before the safety car, Namaya was 5th, so the best he can hope for really is to get back to 5th before the next round of pit stops where he can pit up to the mediums again. So that's Namaya's target, is to get up to Frankie.
Yes, because otherwise his pit stop would have been worthless, because the top 10 will be going on to the mediums anyway for the rest of the race very, very soon. So ideally, he's got to send moves and do Daniel Ricciardo sends as Volakongan goes down the inside of Harry in towards turn 8 then, as he's up into 12th place on those mediums. So another one that's making those mediums work. The F2 champion from last season, making good headway at the moment. Jensen now trying to go down the inside of Harry. So definitely those medium runners are making their way up, as you were saying at the moment, and those hard runners are struggling. Harry as well, who's been on those tyres for 9 laps so far. well, he's not doing the best at all. Everyone else on the hards who's pretty much started on them is doing very, very well. So it just goes to show that he is struggling a little bit. He's still getting used to being in this division. It may take a while for some people to get to grips with it, but it's very understandable. We've seen that with Markados a few seasons ago, as Markados and Amaya, speaking of them, trying to go for a move in towards the tunnel section, and looks like Amaya just about holds it on from Markados, and Markados almost going to fight them there as well. Next on Namaya's radar is Rick. Rick's in 9th place right now. Nick's doing a great job trying to pull away from Markados, but we can see if the mediums have a good pace difference. They do go off very, very quickly around here, and it's a 9-10 difference if you do close in, but obviously it does depend on your pace so far. Aurelian, by the way, struggling to close in on Kian. He's already out of DRS range on him, so Kian, another one that is pulling away from everybody else so far. And Tom had a good safety car restart. He's up to 6th at the moment. Frankie as well. Pretty much the top 9 doing a decent job just to stay out at the moment. But I think Rick's going to be pressurised by Namaya in the next few moments.
Yeah, good for Namaya to get back into the top 10. He's obviously made that move on Markados, and next, like you say, is Rick for him to get the move. Ideally for Namaya, what he needs is this DRS train to kind of split up into packs. He needs them to split up a bit so that they can start fighting and he can capitalise on them and get closer. The last thing he needs is this train to stay solid for the rest of this stint before he has to pit again for another set of mediums. So that is what he wants, and at the moment he's not getting that wish, unfortunately. Aurelian did lose DRS, like I mentioned, on the run through the Singapore sling, but actually didn't lose any straight line speed, interestingly enough. So Aurelian may be a bit of a faster car on a straight line, or maybe DRS just is not powerful around the circuit. The straights aren't very long, of course. DRS isn't going to be as powerful in these cars as they have been in the past. The straights aren't long, so you're not going to get that much of a toe effect with the DRS here either. So I think DRS is kind of really a non-factor unless you're within 4/10 of someone going down a straight. So that is that's kind of the magical gap you've got to look for, and that is how close Namaya is to the back of Rick. But unfortunately, Rick is just as close, almost, to the back of Deso. So it's going to be difficult for Namaya to make these moves unless drivers start making mistakes or they start battling with one another and he can capitalise. By the way, look at Max's lead. It's back up again to what it was before the safety car restart. So it only took him about 3 laps, but he's back up once again, 2.3 seconds. I think we need a PSF0 just for Max, I think. At the moment, Spain, he absolutely dominated, and that was only the second half of the race he dominated. He didn't have it all his own way in the first half. This time around, he's having it all his own way in the first half, even when the safety car's thrown at him. So Max is absolutely dominating proceedings at the moment.
Yeah, well, I have to say, Max was pretty nervous going into last week's race, but I think the nerves are pretty much gone since he won last week's race, and probably the nerves are gone now. But you can't become complacent even if you're leading that far in front. We've seen people make mistakes when they're in P1, in PSF1, and in many of the other tiers I've commentated in my life, in PSGL. So you just got to, pretty much Max's main rival in this race at this stage is himself. So let's just hope that he can keep concentrating, because it is a long race, and your shoulders must be aching and stuff like that if you're on the wheel and stuff. Your thumbs must be aching if you're on a pad. So it is going to be very difficult. It is a different type of circuit as to the way, obviously, it's designed. It's a counterclockwise circuit, where a lot of the other circuits is clockwise. So very, very different. So some people have been out of races before because obviously they've been tired, and their arms or their fingers are just giving up, depending if you're on a wheel or a pad. So yeah, his main rival is going to be himself right now, as he goes into the latter stages of this race. And Amaya then still not close enough to the likes of Rick so far, but I think it is going to be, if he can do it at the moment, because it's not going to be that long before those mediums start to die very soon. But there we go. And by the way, there is some interesting facts about Singapore whilst we wait for some battles to happen. 1,600 custom-made floodlights are spread around this circuit, and it's a light 4 times brighter than a regular sports stadium, and it is to minimise glare and surface reflection and to meet the broadcasting standards for Formula 1. So that's why there are loads of floodlights, of course, because it is a night race. I think more floodlights, and obviously Bahrain, of course, where the drivers were in real life. So those were some interesting facts for you there as well. Let's see who's gained quite a few positions off the restart. And obviously Volakongan up 6, where certain people need to pit again. Rowan is out of the race. He unfortunately is retired in the pit lane. He is going up. Oh, something's happened. Someone has gone into a spin. That's Kian. Oh, another race where he got tangled in something that he didn't want to get tangled with. Oh, that is absolutely gutting.
That is such a shame for Kian. That's an unforced error, unfortunately, on the way onto the Anderson Bridge by the looks of things. It looks like that curb on the inside maybe is just spun him round, and that is such a shame for Kian. He was in the running for the podium in Spain and had that incident with Marquez. Again in the running for a good result or a podium here, and he's spun all by himself. And that is such a shame. He's gotten away with no damage again. He's still in 13th. There's still an opportunity for some points for Kian, but again, another podium for Kian has slipped away from him, unfortunately. That is such a shame. And by the way, Harry, trying to avoid Kian after that spin, spun in sympathy on the Anderson Bridge. So Harry's dropped down to 18th in all of that mess as well. So a bit of a crazy couple of corners there, unfortunately. What that has done is given Nando some breathing space in second place. So Nando now can kind of focus on his own race and see what he can do now for the rest of this one. It's kind of exactly what happened in Spain, really, isn't it? When Kian spun, the top two, which at the time were Max and Asicombe, gapped the rest of the field, and then it was a fight for third. And almost the exact same thing has happened at the midpoint of this race. Kian spun, Max and Nando are now leading, and now it's a fight for third. So, yeah, Kian's definitely a bit of a running theme at the moment, unfortunately. Hopefully Kian doesn't have a season like we saw maybe Marlon had last season, where Marlon was so fast all season long, but just kept spinning when he was in good positions. And that's 2 races in a row now, and Kian needs to try and get on top of it now. If this keeps happening, it's just going to affect his mindset, and it's going to happen more often. So hopefully Kian doesn't get into a bit of a downward spiral, and hopefully he can recover from this. Like I mentioned, he's still in good position. There's still 3 drivers at least in front of him on an alternate strategy that we're not sure is going to work. So there's still plenty of opportunity for Kian to score points in this race.
And you never know, there could be some safety cars that could bring him back into the mix. So I have to agree, it is not over at all. And maybe it's just trying to get his tyres in a workable condition. Maybe his tyres did not like him at all, and he's getting into a point where the tyres are starting to lose grip. Don't forget, most of these guys have been on those tyres since the very start of the race. So it's all about that tyre management at this stage. We've seen the real-life Bahrain Grand Prix at this stage where people's tyres start to struggle a little bit. So we just got to keep an eye on which drivers are made of the right stuff in terms of tyre management. They can go out long and see if they can get a very good pit stop in as a matter of fact. Now, obviously, the pit stop window is coming up around about lap 16, 17 is when we would expect people to pit. They may pit a bit later to make sure they push on those last few laps on a set of the medium tyres as well. The ones who are already on the medium tyres will probably set a little bit of a benchmark for the likes of Maya, Volakongan and Jensen. What I would like for the F1 games in the future, please, Codemasters, is for us to be able to see the tyre wear of the drivers so we can get an idea who is struggling with their tyres and who is being A-OK. But at the moment, we're not getting it. Hopefully we'll get it for F1 23, but we can only live and dream. But apart from obviously Kian's spin, not much is happening so far. Namaya is struggling to get past Rick. Everyone is struggling to get past each other. And then we have the top 2 just running away with it. It's typical stuff before the pit stop phase, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just kind of settling down, isn't it, before everybody starts to pull the trigger and go for the pit stops. I think now that we've had a safety car, I think we'll potentially see a few people maybe go a little bit longer on these hard compound tyres. Of course, they've not had as much wear put through them, so maybe they'll go a little bit longer and go for the medium tyres at the end. And if you can stretch your hards far enough without losing too much pace, the more laps, the less laps you can do on a set of mediums, the better, because the pace difference on a fresh set of mediums can be massive. So if you can stay out to maybe lap 19 or 20 and still have maintained good pace on the hards, it's definitely worth it trying to do that. As we've got a few takers for the pit lane. I think Frankie potentially is the first one in. Actually, no, Aurelian is the first one in. Frankie follows him into the pit lane, as well as, I believe, Fabi's into the pit lane as well. Desso's in. Rick is into the pit lane as well. Kian's in. They're double stacking at Haas, so that's not quite going to help Kian, but it's not going to be too much of an effect. He was a little bit further back, but either way, got our first takers for the pit lane. Aurelian then from a net P3 into the pit lane. This will be interesting to see where he comes out in relation to Nando, if Nando decides to react.
Yes, I think Aurelian is going to be the one to watch out for to see if he produces the best outlap he can. He's really got to push as much as he can on his outlap, and then as soon as he gets ahead of Nando, because Nando will be on colder tyres, that could be a strategy game changer, or Nando could make those tyres go out for a bit longer and he can get ahead. You never know. We will see what everyone's pace, because Aurelian and Nando weren't that far behind each other. So will Aurelian going into the pits trigger Nando to potentially think, you know what, me going into the pits is good, or maybe I should stay out longer? We'll see. So Nando, I think, is going to have to get his strategy into gear. I think a lot of these drivers in this division will have engineers in a PS party with them, so they will probably be watching this stream and getting a close idea of how everybody is doing, and they'll be notifying the drivers in their ears about who's made stops, who hasn't, and I think Nando will be told as well. So I won't be surprised if Nando comes into the pits now as they head towards turn 22 and 23. And Nando, unsurprisingly, comes into the pits. The pit lane is so narrow. We've seen people retire from the race here in many leagues because of people just hitting the pit walls. It is so narrow. So they've got to be careful. They also got to be careful not to cut the pit lane exit and entry, because I think the stewards will be watching that this week. So here comes Nando on a set of the mediums. Let's watch Aurelian then. Aurelian heading towards the final few corners. He's got Frankie right in front of him. This could be quite close as well. Where's Nando? Nando just coming out of the pit lane. Oh, I think it's going to be very tight. Nando, I think, will just about get ahead of Aurelian. Yes, he does, but the gap is even closer and closer at the moment. Aurelian, with his warmer tyres, could have a chance to get past him at the moment. Has ripped the tyres from the session in the pit lane. I wonder what's happened to him. I don't know what's caused him to retire so early. What a shame on his F1 full-time debut. But Aurelian then is going to try and go for the move into turn 7. No, Nando looks so much more committed then. But Aurelian's going to try and go for a switcheroo. Heading towards turn 8. No, not quite. Frankie's in this as well. This is a three-way fight, by the way, for P9. But at this stage, the overcut worked a treat for Nando.
Yeah, it worked a treat for Nando, as actually Aurelian was derating down the Singapore swing. He had no ERS to use, and actually Nando was pulling away from him in a straight line. So Nando there pretty safe in a straight line to Aurelian, and now he's got the track advantage and the ERS advantage. That's only going to help him further trying to pull away potentially from Aurelian. They've gapped Fabi as well in all of that, as here comes Frankie to the outside of Aurelian down towards turn number 14. Can he get the move done? Not quite. He's going to try the switch back on the exit of the corner. He'll have the inside line for the right-hander if he can keep it down the inside. Can he get the move done on Aurelian? Yes, he can. Aurelian has to back out the corner. Frankie is up into a net third place. That is a brilliant move from Frankie. It's potentially 2 Alfa Romeos here on the podium. Lovely stuff. Aurelian had nothing to fight with. He's got no ERS, and I fear Aurelian now is potentially going to fall back into the clutches of Fabi as well in that Mercedes. So Aurelian, by maybe pushing too much on his outlap, is actually going to fall back rather than go forwards, which is a bit of a shame. Max then, after his pit stop, P7. Feasibly though, the top 6 potentially could go to the end. They've all technically done their pit strategies. They've all made their pit stops. There's actually Marlon's going for the outside of your own into turn number 7 and gets the move done nicely. So Marlon's up to P4. But everybody in the top 6 has made their mandatory stop. They've run both compounds of tyre. They don't feasibly have to stop again. Whether they will need to because of their tyre wear is another situation. But if they stay out, Max doesn't have it all his own way. Max has got a bit of a fight on his hands here. He's 11.5 seconds off the back of Stefano. He's got 3 hard runners and then potentially 3 medium runners to pass. So if they do all stay out to the end of the race, I think they're going to be very slow. But Max has got his work cut out to get through the field without losing any time.
Yes, it's going to be tight, especially, Max, to get past the hard runners. I think the medium runners will probably be easier, but the medium runners will have something to answer to as well, because according to the game, the mediums last 18 laps, so we'll keep an eye on the puncher territory. But don't forget, they want the safety car, as Stefano and Aurelian had a bit of a coming together there, so Aurelian definitely struggling on pace at the moment, as Tom has the pace advantage as well. Fabi down the inside of Aurelian up to P10 then, so Fabi's taken advantage of all that carnage so far going in that final sector, as he's going to be in the point so far. Tom down the inside of Stefano. Stefano struggling on those hard tyres. He's going to have to pit soon for a set of medium, surely. Or maybe he's holding on for a set of the soft compounded tyres. The action is really kicking off here in PSF1, and I'm absolutely loving it so far. And as Desso then, he's going to try and do exactly the same on Stefano's old hard tyres. You can definitely see the pace advantage on those mediums, but there's one thing on catching up to the drives, another thing for passing them, as we've got Jensen that's got past Volakongan up in a 2-second place. Yellow flag, that is Stefano has hit the wall, I think he lost his end play, that's pretty much it, but he needs to come in. His tyres, I think, are toast at the moment.
Yeah, that is such a shame. He was kind of racing Desso into turn one. Desso had the outside line and more momentum. I think Stefano needed to back out of it, but he kind of bounced into the side of the Haas, unfortunately. And in all of that, Marcados, wrong place, wrong time, has damaged his front wing in all of that. So Marcados, after a great race in Spain, it's not gone his way here in Singapore, unfortunately. He's going to have to bank on a safety car for anything really to happen for him now in this race. That is such a shame for Marcados, who was trying to recover, of course, from a pretty poor qualifying and a poor opening lap. So, yeah, down in 15th now with a damaged front wing, maybe hoping only for a safety car now for him to salvage something from this race. By the way, Max has already got that gap to Stefano down to 8.6 seconds. He is lightning fast. He's so fast compared to these top drivers that even if they do try and go to the end, I don't think they're going to have any answer for Max here on much fresher tyres. I don't see them really holding on. I think the hard runners are going to stay out. It's really only the logical decision for them. They were at the back of the field anyway, most of them having had damage on the opening lap. They were fighting at the back of the field anyway before that. They all qualified at the back. So for the likes of Marlon and Stefano, this is really only their only opportunity in a normal race of getting points if you think about where they qualified and where they were before their incidents. So they kind of need to stay out here and hope for the best and hope that they can hold on at least to some sort of points position. But I think that's going to be difficult with the pace advantage we're seeing for Max behind. And as well, Max is not pulling away from Nando or Frankie either. So on the mediums, the gap between Max and the rest of them doesn't seem as big. Max seems to be a bit more confident on the hard compound tyres potentially. But yeah, Nando and Frankie have gapped Fabi big time here. Fabi now 3 seconds back. It's kind of spread out for those that have done the traditional strategy. Max, Nando and Frankie are the net podium sitters of those on the traditional strategy, and none of them really seem to be under threat of losing that podium unless any of the drivers in the top 6 can somehow stay ahead of them.
We would always like that underdog story. We like that in PSGL, PSF1. It has happened before in many seasons in PSGL history, and well, we're just going to hope that we could have a surprise story, you never know. Or will the hard runners live to fight another day, or will Max be able to hold on to that victory? We'll have to wait and see. We've got 11 laps to go of this Singapore Grand Prix. At the moment, as it stands, the Maya leads, but for how much longer? Because we will see if the hard runners could close in on the top 3. Realistically, like you were saying, they don't have to pit, but these tyres are already on the brink of death at the moment, so they just got to nurse these tyres home to a comfortable window. There may be some people that may not get those to the end quite comfortably, so they will be trying for the 2-stop, or they'll be praying for a safety car at lap 27, 28, where a lot of people will be going for softs and they will be getting for potentially track position, and that could really help them at the moment. And watching Volakongan's pace at the moment, and he's matching Jensen quite considerably at the moment in this first sector, but I think Volakongan's doing better on his ERS as well compared to Jensen, because you can see Jensen is harvesting his energy down the straight. You can see Volakongan is gaining without even using to use his ERS, using DRS for good company with the slipstream and able to close in a little bit more, but again, not close enough. And looking at Max's pace, 3.6 seconds to Jerome, but Jerome's been on 90 lap all hards. He's going to have to pit soon. I wonder if Jerome is going to be going on to a set of the soft compounded tyres. That's what Stefano's done, by the way. I doubt that's going to get to the end from here, but a bold risk, I have to say, that probably might not pay off, but maybe these drivers could potentially prove me wrong so far. I think since that pit stop fade has gone quiet again, I think it's going to take a mistake from our top 6 to change anything through here, and I think the next move we'll probably see is Max on Jerome. It's just a question of when it happens, not going to lie, because I'm not doubting Max here. I know it's going to happen. It's just a question of when he does it.
Yeah, definitely looks like it, doesn't it? I think Max will be past Jerome on the next lap by the looks of things. By the way, for those on the hards, lap 16 seems to be the key lap. Lap 16 was the lap that Stefano was on when he was plummeting through the field. Lap 16 is when Jerome lost the position to Marlon, and Jeroen's tyres are only 4 laps older than Stefano and Marlon's tyres, and they're both on hards as well. But Jeroen is so much slower on these hards compared to the 2 in front of him on the same compound of tyres, and with only 4 laps difference, it seems like you get to lap 16 and the hards just hit a cliff and the pace is gone. So we're on lap 16 now with Marlon and Stefano. We've got to keep an eye on their pace to see if they will hit the same cliff. But yeah, the hards definitely seem to hit a cliff, and for some reason those on the mediums at the front haven't hit that same cliff yet, which is a little bit bizarre. So maybe because of the nature of the hard compound tyre, they last very long, but when they hit their window, of course they don't have as much grip as the mediums to begin with, so maybe when you hit that window the loss of grip is so substantial that actually the hard tyres become kind of a useless tyre. So that is one thing to note, as Max is now within DRS range of Jeroen, but kind of in the worst part of the track to be within DRS range here, because of course you've got the Singapore Sling, and then you've got a very narrow section through both sides of the Anderson Bridge. So I don't really think he's going to get the move done until we get to 14. Max doesn't have to rush it. He doesn't have to take a risk. He's got 4 seconds on Nando behind. He's not under any pressure for this race win. He's just going to sit behind, I think, and then go for the move down to 14. We can see the traction difference out of this hairpin. And yeah, look at that. He's basically pushing the Alpine out of the corner. Nothing Jeroen can do. Max has breezed past on the shortest straight on the track into P6. So that's one of many for Max, but yeah, Max here with the grip difference we just saw there coming out of the hairpin. There was no way Max is not just not going to plough through these next 5 drivers and get back to the lead.
And look at the gap that he's trying to close in on Stefano. He's within 2 seconds already there, and you can see it's just closing lap after lap after lap. So maybe the win is still on the cards, even if those guys stay out, and that will be a strong sign to everybody that's staying out that the ones on the traditional strategy maybe have pitted for the right reasons, and they were the ones who stayed out of the carnage compared to everybody, and they reaped the rewards out of everybody as well. And it's not that long to go until the end of the race, believe it or not. So it is time to get your predictions in. Will the ones who have stayed out on those hard tyres, the likes of Marlon and Stefano, will they be able to get to the end? And will they be able to get on to the podium and get some decent points? Or will Max spoil the party? Meanwhile, battle for the lead on track as they were pushed off the circuit. Pretty much Lamaya and Jensen. Lamaya gets the lead. Lamaya almost hitting the wall there. Volakongan almost took advantage there. We got Williams versus Ferrari versus the 2 Red Bulls. We got not the last time we've seen a Ferrari versus 2 Red Bulls in any race circuit, not gonna lie. Volakongan being the lead Red Bull so far, but really he's got to get the move ASAP because he's got Marlon chasing him on tyres which are a little bit more durable so far on the night sky. Just look at that skyline at the moment. It is midnight obviously on this game, so obviously it can get quite cold obviously if you're outside, but the track temperature is very, very hot indeed and very mentally enduring for the drivers. And I think Stefano's going to call it quits there because he got a 5-second penalty for being in the pit lane. Yes, he is. So that makes it our 5th retirement tonight for the Singapore Grand Prix. 4 retirements to be in the pit lane. Obviously, one which was Kazizel in 20th, who caused that safety car, who binned it in the tunnel. So, yeah, that was the only retirement that was not pit lane so far. Let's see what Marlon can do in this corner then, because I think he could get him here. You can see team orders it looks like. Volakongan knows that his tyres are going to be dead, and Volakongan was like, you know what, Marlon? You chase down the guys for first place on track. And I have to say, not what I was expecting, but he didn't want to hold up his teammates. So, fair move from Volakongan.
Yeah, I'm kind of not surprised. I think Marlon is theoretically in the better position here, as Max is going to breeze past Stefano down the Singapore Sling, and at the same time, Nando is going to breeze past Jeroen down the Singapore Sling and get the move done. So, opportunity here for Nando to actually gap Frankie, because Frankie's now going to have to sit behind Jeroen potentially for a sector before he can get the move done. So, this is an opportunity for Nando to maybe secure that second place in this race and gap the Alfa Romeo. So, good opportunity there for Nando. Of course, for Nando, the next car up the road is his teammate. So I'm sure Stefano's not going to put up a fight, as Max is now catching this train of 4 cars. So the train is going to be a little bit more difficult for Max to make the move. He's going to have to think potentially about an unorthodox overtake at a different point of the circuit rather than down a DRS straight, because of course he's not going to have that straight line advantage. You will still have, of course, the grip advantage, but he'll maybe have to think about doing it in a different point of the circuit. that'll be something to look out for here. The other good thing for him, though, of course, is our top two are both D ratings. So Max has got a good ERS advantage on those at the top of the field as well, and he's right onto the back of Volokongren. And Volokongren's almost in the wall here, so Max thinking about the move, not quite close down to the Red Bulls, doesn't think about it. He's still got a comfortable gap to Nando behind. He doesn't need to take the risk. He will stay in 5th for as long as he needs to before he finds an opening to get the move done. He's still got 7 laps when we cross the line, so there is plenty of time left for Max to get through this pack of cars and get back to the lead. And I think he may be about to go for a move here down towards turn 1. He's got such a run down the straight, so much more straight line speed as well, and Max is down the inside, is up to 4th. So yeah, Max has already got 1 down, 3 to go, and I don't think it's going to be too difficult for him.
No, I don't think so either. And I don't think Volokongren challenged Max, to be honest. He knew that his tyres were dead compared to Max's 8-lap old tyres. And to be honest, again, it is a situation where the one who is chasing is losing time. And if you're holding up a driver, you'll lose time as well. Meanwhile, Marlon goes down the inside in towards turn 7 then. Gets P2 on the road. And it just goes to show that the hard tyres are the best tyre to be on if you stayed out before that safety car. So Marlon up to P2 in this race, could be on for some solid points if he could keep this up, even though the ones on the memes are catching, like we were saying. There's one thing on catching a driver, it's another thing for passing. And Marlon has got to play the Ministry of Defence right now. He's channeling his inner Sergio Perez, it looks like, at the moment, in P2. He's got Jensen, though, behind him, who's playing a little bit of a buffer right now. But Jensen's running out of VRS. Max almost got past Jensen, but I know Max will definitely be playing the patient game, because he definitely doesn't want to lose a race, because people are on older tyres. He knows he's going to get them past eventually due to the tyre difference. So, he's just going to figure out when he's going to do it. He can do it before lap 31 if he wants to, because he's got to concentrate on that, of course, as well. And the sooner he gets past the better, because he can clear away the two Aston Martins. I have to say, by the way, Stefano having a great race so far on those hard tyres, but he's probably going to struggle with his teammate Nando. Will Stefano let Nando through just like he did with Volokongren? I don't know. Meanwhile, Matt gets past Jensen, another easy move. So he's only got to get past 2 more drivers, and then he'll be in the lead of this race. And Marlon, it's probably going to be the hardest out of the 2 to get past, because Marlon is on the tyres, realistically can last the race distance. As Namaya having a nice battle with Marlon. Marlon takes the lead of the Singapore Grand Prix, and Namaya's tyres is definitely dead. So I think Namaya should be easy pickings for Max.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be difficult for Max to get past the Maya, and once he gets past the Maya, Marlon's got nobody in front of him to help defend, so I think it's going to be over for Marlon once Max is through on the Maya. Max thinking about the move into turn 10, but not close enough. The good thing here for Marlon, though, that now that he's past the medium runners, the fresh medium runners aren't getting through this pack as quickly as I thought they would. Nando has passed Stefano, Frankie's passed Jeroen, but Fabi's not caught Jeroen yet. Fabi's still not passed Jeroen, so realistically, Marlon still could be on for a top 5 here in this race. It's still looking pretty decent, as here goes Max round the outside of Namaya into 14. Namaya's got nothing to defend with. He is through. Nando late on the brakes, trying to get the move done on Volokongren. He should hopefully get the move done into the next corner. He's got way more grip. Volokongren doesn't fight too hard. Nando's up into 5th, but yeah, Fabi's past Jeroen as well. So Fabi's up into 9th position, and Jeroen not going to fight Euralian. Oh, actually, he is going to fight Euralian. He's going to tap his Alpine teammate, but Euralian will get the move done and get into the points.
Tom?
Yeah, Tom getting the move done on Jeroen as well into a very narrow section of the track. They're still side by side. Tom's going to try and hold it around the outside. I think Jeroen's potentially still got fighting in, but Tom's got the move done this time through 21, and Jeroen is round, and he clips Desso as well. I think Desso's got damage and all of that, as has Kian as well. Both Hasses taken out by Jeroen's spin there. That is such a shame. That is their race pretty much over and done with. And at the same time, Nando got past Jensen as well. So Nando is coming through the field. Frankie's onto the back of this train now as well. So they're all starting to come through as the medium runners are all starting to fade a little bit. Max is onto the back of Marlon, though, for the lead. Can he get the move done into 7? Not close enough, but it's only a matter of time before he gets it done. And yeah, Fabi took so long to catch and pass Jeroen that I think Marlon here is still within a shot of a top 5.
I have to say, Marlon has played his strategy right here, because everyone else is squabbling up front. Maybe go on the hards was the best thing after all, and you have to have the pace on the hards to be the one to do that. And Marlon is definitely showing it up front. He knows he's not going to win the race, but he's just going to have some fun leading the race for a little bit so far. As Matt's with that traction, he's got the straight line speed as well. You can see the pace difference. as Max, oh, he doesn't want to be brave too soon because we don't want both of them making contact. But it looks like Max could get the lead here. Yes, he does. Max retakes the lead of the Singapore Grand Prix. Nando gets past Samaya up into third place. So he's on the podium. And he's now going to try and get past Marlon, which shouldn't be too difficult as he past the Ferris wheel into Sector 3. So we'll see how much gap Max can pull away in these last few laps now that he doesn't have the train worrying about it, because there's still some people that have been on those tyres for quite a bit that still struggle. I think we could see some punches coming up very, very soon, which could help some people, as Aurelian and Tom having a little bit of a fight, as Aurelian up into 10th position at the moment. As Tom stays at 11th position, it's going to be hard for him to go for the move so far. Not that long to go until the end of the race. Max already within out of DRS of Marlon, which is very, very great to see. Jensen, 3-second time penalty, the third drive to get penalties. And I think we're going to see Jensen trying to go for the move on the Maya. They got much, much older tyres, but they don't care. They're going to go for a battle anyway, in towards turn 7. Frankie, I think, just going to stay out of this one. He's going to be free wide into turn 8. You do not want to go for that. And that ends in tears, unfortunately, for all drivers involved. Stefano, well, he has to be patient. As Jensen has hit the wall. He's hit quite a lot of drivers in the process as well. And just staying out just did not help any of those drivers. The only one that did benefit was Marlon in P2. And Nando, he's going to get past eventually. Marlon could be on for podium here with that gap as well. So Marlon's podium could be interesting here. Stefano trying to go down the inside of Volakongan. Does that when he's on those hard tyres up to 5th place. And we got Frankie trying to go down the inside now. I think he was playing it safe, that one. He waited until the perfect opportunity. He didn't want to cause any incidents. And Frankie is up into 6th place. Fabi gets past Volakongan as well. Up into 8th position then. Max still leads. 1.8 seconds is the gap now. Marlon in 2nd. Nando in 3rd. Nando, I think it's going to get him next lap. But I think if Marlon could keep it up, Marlon's on for a shot for a podium.
Yeah, he definitely is. That incident for Frankie when he was involved with Jensen and Amaya has definitely saved Marlon a podium here. I don't think Frankie needed to make that free wide. You saw the two of them, Amaya and Jensen, fighting. I think if he went for the switchback, he potentially would have got at least one of them on the exit of the corner just on pure traction. So Frankie there maybe a little bit frustrated. He's up into 6th though. Look at that. Stefano trying to get the move on Amaya as well. Remember, Stefano's on the same strategy as Marlon. He's not had the same pace, but he is now up into 4th. So Stefano here saving a good result for him as well. And for Aston Martin as a team, that is a brilliant result for Stefano if he can hold on to a top 5, which at the moment it looks like he can do. As Frankie now down the inside of Demaya will get the move done and he's back up into the top 5. Marcados retires in the pit lane at the end of that one to make it our 6th retirement of this race. Jensen's in as well to repair that front wing. So Frankie's up into 5th, Nemaya down to 6th. Fabi will be next to have a go at Nemaya to try and get into P6. But yeah, if Nemaya stays out and doesn't get a puncture, he will still finish in the points because there is 12 seconds back to your own. So there's still potential for a points finish here as Aurelian goes down the inside of Volakongan for P8. They're still side by side. Those that stayed out on the hards are doing well, but those that stayed out on the mediums, they're just
free wide. Don't make it free wide. Ooh. Well, I think one of them backed off there a little bit, didn't they? I think they knew free wide was not going to work, and I think Tom had to back out. I think Tom doing a much better job being aware at the moment, as Tom is going to get some points at this stage, which I have to say will be pretty good going for him as well. Surely he wanted some higher points, but at the end of the day, Singapore is a hard track. He didn't put that much practice in, and he just wanted to have some fun at the end of the day then. So, Nando is in with crucial range to get past Marlon. 3/10 is all he needs. He's going to wait till turn 5 to get the DRS, so we'll keep an eye on that. Aurelian trying to get past Nemaya, and he does so. But let's watch Nando so far. Surely it's going to be a question of when rather than if, but you never know. Anything could happen in PSGL, PSF1. So, can Nando move it down the inside? Oh, that is very, very tight between the two of them, and I think Nando's just going to play the waiting game. He has 1.5 laps to do it, so it doesn't matter if he does it now or next lap. As long as he does it eventually, he knows that Marlon's hard tired is going to lose a bit of the grip. The old Singapore Sun then coming up into turn 10. I thought he was going to get him in the apex, but he doesn't. Marlon with that defensive work. He's definitely playing a Sergio Perez in this race, I have to say, by defending like a madman. as Nando just can't get past at the moment, and that's just, I think the more that Nando can't get past Marlon, the more chance that Marlon can get that part. I think Marlon's definitely going to get a podium as long as he doesn't get a punch or touchwood at the moment, and it's all helping Max increase the gap up front.
Yeah, Max now 5 seconds in the lead, disappearing off into the distance. It's looked pretty set from the start of this race, hasn't it, that Max would win, really, no matter what this race threw at him. But yeah, Nando's only got 1 lap left to try and get this moved on. He's got no ERS. That's the way he couldn't get the moved on Marlon. He just didn't have the ERS to fight him down the straights and was too slow in a straight line. So Nando's maybe got to think about an unorthodox place to try and get the move done. Think about maybe somewhere like turn 5, see if he can get the move done there, maybe turn 8.
No, he's not!
Oh, no! Spun it at the last corner. He can keep going. He's not picked up any damage. Nando should still hold on to a podium position here. It's his teammate directly behind him. Nando's just got to cool the tyres down and he should still get away with a podium finish. But that has saved Marlon a 2nd place in this race. What a race for Marlon and what a gamble on that strategy. Touch wood, he doesn't get a puncture on this final lap. But if he doesn't, that gamble has paid off massively for Marlon.
To be honest, I have to say, like I was saying, you had to have the pace to be on that strategy. If I was the one on that strategy, my tyres would have been dead by now. But Marlon's pretty much tyre management has been to perfection. He's got to hold it for the next 2 sectors in order to get an amazing P2. He's definitely one of my driver of the day. Despite he had some incidents, he had a never give up mentality, and that definitely helped him throughout today as Frankie and Fabi having a battle for P5 on the road at the moment. But let's go on board with Max as he's going through the middle sector. He's still burning. Is he alright? He doesn't care. He's at the front. He's loving life right now up front. As Frankie and Fabi, oh, they're making a bit of contact there, heading through this hairpin. I think that's going to be close if they end up going 3 wide here, which hopefully they won't. Fabi, oh, that's tight. They're almost going to hit the wall. Aurelian gets past and took advantage of that. I have to say, well played from Aurelian. I think they capitalise on everybody's mistakes at the moment. But let's watch Max then. He did well in Spain, but this time he got pole and the win here in Singapore. 2 wins out of 2 for our championship leader Max. And Marlon, who did 25 laps on the hards, comes to take 2nd place. Incredible pace, incredible gamble. And the spin for Nando saved him. Nando's still impressive podium, but surely he would have wanted 2nd place. Stefano, another driver that made the hard strategy work for pitting early under the safety car. He did 26 laps on those hards, and he's in 4th place, getting Aston Martin's best result of the season. Frankie in 5th, Aurelian in 6th. We got Fabi Tom Volakonga gets his 1st points of the season. Well done to him. And then the Maya round up your top 10, and we're just waiting for the last few drivers to make their way through the field. But my 2 drivers I've got 3 drivers of the day, and they have to be Max, our race winner, and the ones who made the hard strategy work, Marlon and Stefano.
Yeah, brilliant stuff from them to make that strategy work, and it shows that the hard tyre was the right call. Those that stayed out in the mediums, Volakonga and Amaya, just plummeted through the field, and Jensen, of course, crashed. So that strategy didn't work for them. I'm amazed that neither of them got a puncture at the end in terms of Volakonga and Amaya. They just had no pace. They were 3 or 4 seconds a lap slower, and it just didn't work, which is why they ended up at the bottom end of the points. But it's still points for them, so that's good for them, and it's good for Volakonga as well. His 1st points of the season, so I'm sure he'll be happy with that despite being on the wrong strategy. But yeah, what a performance for Max. If Spain was anything to go by, that was even more dominant. That was dominant from start to finish, never looked in doubt. Even when a safety car and an odd strategy was thrown at him, he still dominated proceedings and got pole as well. And yeah, Max is looking in imperious form, isn't he? And to compound what has been such a great start to the season, 2nd place in the championship, Marcadors doesn't score. 3rd place in the championship, Aurelian can only manage P6. So that makes Max lead even bigger. So yeah, what a start to the season Max has had.
I have to say, we could see a dominant performance for Max for the rest of the season, and I have to say, this will be quite worrying for the drivers that struggled here today as well. And to come to think of it, Max is only 15 years old. Imagine what he will be like when he's old enough for F1 esports to compete in challenges next year. He would be on fire. So we have told everybody to watch out for Max, and Max has got the experience. Shame he's not old enough to take part in challenges this year, because he would have absolutely nailed challenges. But we'll run for your order then. We've got Max from Marlon, who started 19th on the grid, by the way. 19th. That is quite crazy, by the way. Nando, Stefano, Frankie Aurelian, Fabi, Tom, Fuller, Conga, Demar, your top 10. And Aaron, Deso, Kian, Jensen, Markados, Stefano, your top 16. Stefano being your first DNF'ers, along with Rick, Harry, Rowan, and Kazizzle. Kazizzle was the only person who retired on track and caused a safety car. Only one safety car, no rain. It was a pretty decent race, some quiet moments, but the last few laps definitely spiced things up.
Yeah, they definitely did. Yeah, I'm kind of glad we got the safety car in the end because it made the end of that race very interesting and it put people on different strategies. And this is why I said at the start of the race, we want a game where you can have multiple different strategies that have different pace in them, because you see people on different strategies and you get ends of races like that where everybody converges and different things can work for different people. So yeah, that's why I want to see those different kind of strategies. I'm actually surprised at pace-wise how well the hards held up at the end of that race in the end, because you had obviously Marlon in P2 in the end. He obviously had pressure from Nando, but behind Nando there was no one near them, and Stefano managed to get past obviously those that were on the mediums and wasn't caught by those on the fresher mediums behind, like the likes of Frankie and Fabi. So even though they were 26 laps old, those hard compound tyres, they still had decent pace in them. So maybe in the future we might see more people try a strategy like that, where the hards can actually last longer for the end of the race and then use the mediums at the start, or they go longer on the hards at the start and go for the mediums later on in the race. I think the hards definitely had more pace than I was expecting at the end of that one. So yeah, very interesting race, and looking forward to the next one after this one as well. But yeah, I mean, I can't say enough about Max. What another incredibly dominant performance.
I'm sure a lot of other esports teams are going to be jealous that Max is in Talent Factory at the moment. And yeah, I was surprised that the hards were able to last as long as it was. I thought maybe in future Singapore races, we could see the softs come into play towards the end of the race. Maybe they started on hards and there was no safety car. Some people like Marlon, they could have done hard to soft potentially, and they could have been in the same position and could have been on the quicker tyre, but we would have never have known because we had that safety car. But we like those crazy strategies. I would like to see more of that for next week, please. Do we have anyone waiting in the interview room?
We have all three of our podium finishers waiting for us in the waiting room, so we can get to chat to all three of them today.
Oh, perfect. I think we should start. I think we should do third to first, I think, by the looks of things. We'll start with Nando to get his misery out of the way for his spin. But there we go. So, Nando, can you hear us? Nando, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, good. Nando, you were set for P2. You were going to go for the move on Marlon, but you had that spin. Tell us what was going through your mind at that moment.
It was difficult, to be honest. I was a little bit scared. Yeah, I almost crashed my car on the last lap. So, yeah, quite heartbreaking, to be honest. But yeah, it was really difficult to pass Marlon. He was having more ERS than me, so I did my best. My tires were really good, but not good enough to pass him on the track. And yeah, happy to finish on the podium. That's my first one in PSGL F1, so really proud.
We were saying at the start of the stream, myself and Aiden, that obviously you will keep getting points, and your next stage is getting that podium. You definitely hit that tonight. Now your next progression, maybe to get the win in the future?
Yeah, sure. That's a goal. Today I was not that far, but Max was flying today. Unfortunately for me, but yeah, that's a track that I love, Singapore. But yeah, it was not enough today. Maybe later in the season we will make it. That's what I hope. But yeah, now we have done a podium. That was the actual step. Now the next step is the win. Definitely, we will see.
And one thing I just have to say, considering what happened yesterday in the real life F1, since you're in an Aston Martin and your name is also Nando, were you channeling your inner Fernando Alonso in that race?
Yeah, I was so happy to see him on the podium. That's my hero since I have 6 or 7 years old. So I see him driving like 15 years. So yeah, I was so happy. You can't know how much.
So yeah, that kind of reminds me of what Fernando did yesterday. You were absolutely on fire today as well. So I hope you could obviously keep things up as well. And Aidan, I'll pass the next few questions over to you.
Well, congratulations on your first podium, Nando. Brilliant result from you today. Speaking of Aston Martin, of course, your teammate, Stefano, ended up finishing in 4th, just behind you as well on that different strategy. So great day for Aston Martin as a team. What's kind of the plan for the manufacturers? Is that a focus of yours? Do you think you can try and maybe win the manufacturer's title, or is it solely focused on the drivers for you?
Both, to be honest. But yeah, if we can do a good championship together for the team, it's for me. It's a bonus. For me, it's a bonus.
Yeah, definitely a good bonus to have if you can get that as well. And I'll ask the question I ask pretty much every week. But next week, we head to Paul Ricard in France. How do you feel about that track? Is it a track you enjoy? Is it a track that you're not too fond of?
That's a difficult track for me, to be honest. We will see.
At your home Grand Prix?
Yeah. I'm French and Portuguese. But yeah.
So you had 2 home Grand Prix this season then?
Yes. Quite a privilege. But yeah, France, Paul Ricard is a difficult track for me, but we will train as always to be the most prepared for it, and we will see what we can do.
Fingers crossed then. But yeah, congratulations, first podium of the season, and hopefully at some point this season you can make that next step and get the win.
Yeah, I hope.
Thank you very much, Nando, our 3rd place man. And now we will head to a man who pretty much started near the back of the grid going into today's race. Struggled a bit at the start, but the safety cars saved him by being on those hards for 26 laps. Marlon, a massive congratulations on your podium there. Tell us, going into the race and when you had that incident, did you ever feel by the end of it you were like, yeah, I'm going to get a podium, or was that not in your mind?
No, not really, because starting P19 is not the best position to start on, and I was hoping for a top 10 finish at least, because I knew I have a good race pace. Yeah, but in the end, P2, I guess I'll take that.
Yeah, your main expectations, because you didn't have much time to practice, you just wanted to get used to the track, and that the race pace definitely helped you with that as well. Talk us through the opening laps as well, because you did seem to struggle a little bit. What was going through your mind there as well, because it must have been very chaotic for you.
Yeah, it was. The start was very chaotic. I got foaming damage on Jensen because he had to avoid a car and he broke a bit early, and I didn't expect that. And then I hit him and had I guess, yellow front ring or something like that, and had to pit. But yeah, the safety car helped me a lot. I instantly said to my race engineer, I go for hards. And yeah, in the end, it paid off. He said to me I should pit, but I said to him, nah, I have nothing to lose really, because yeah, I would have come out in P14, I guess, so it was no point to pit.
Nah.
And in the end, it was the right choice.
So it's probably the first time in a while that you overruled your race engineer and it paid off. Do you think that will happen in the future, where you'll sometimes make decisions which are better than your race engineers?
Most of the times he has the right calls, because he has a clear head and I'm fully focused on the race. But yeah, it was totally my choice and it paid off, and I hope I can keep that podium at least this time.
Fingers crossed, because there was a few times where you lost that podium. So yeah, it's nice to see that you have a great relationship as well. And before I pass over to Aidan for more questions, tell me, what was your tyre wear going into the final lap of the race? Do you know what the percentages were?
Near to the 70s, I guess. It was
okay.
pretty all right, but yeah, my race engineer told me that the tires would drop off about 48% at this time. And yeah, I was struggling with traction, but I was able to hold off Nando and push him into a mistake and could easily drive my car to the finish line.
Awesome. I'll hand over to you, Aidan, for the next questions.
Well, congratulations on your second place finish, Marlon. Great result from you today. Of course, when that safety car came out, you saw a few people in front of you pit for the medium compound tyres. You mentioned, obviously, that you wanted to go for the hards. Was there ever a thought in your mind to maybe follow those in front and go for the mediums as well, or was it always a hard compound tyre for you?
It was always the hard compound because I knew that the medium would... I thought it would never make it. In the end, for some guys, it did pay off. But, the pace drop-off was more than on my heart. And I guess if I went for the medium, I would never finish in P2.
Yeah, definitely. We saw that in the end, of course, with the likes of Ola Kongren and Namaya. And of course, P2 for you actually was maybe a little bit lucky in the final laps of the race, of course. You had Nando right behind you, but Nando, of course, spun out of contention really for that second place finish. When you saw that behind you, what was your initial reaction to seeing Nando spin?
Yes!
I knew you were going to say that.
Nice.
Yeah, I was pretty happy because it was a relief because I had a lot of bad races in the past and finally a good result again.
Yeah, really good result for you to start off the season, of course. And speaking of the next round 3, we head to Le Castellet, Paul Ricard, of course, for the French Grand Prix. How are you feeling about that track? Is it a track you think you can do well at?
I don't know because I drove only one race there in that game, in the 22 game. But like today, never say never. I will practice a lot more for this race. That I can tell you. But yeah, I hope for a top 10 finish at least, and yeah, we will see.
We'll see, definitely. Yeah, but yeah, congratulations on your first podium.
Yeah, thank you.
Hopefully, Marlon gets to keep his podium this time round. And finally, our final interview of tonight. We're having all the podium sitters come in to visit us. That's very great to see. We had the man who won last week, did not get pole, but today got pole and won by quite some margin once again. Max, you probably will get used to this, I think, won't you? How do you feel to get your second win of the season?
Yeah, it's pretty insane, so I'm really happy for that, and yeah, unbelievable.
Unbelievable. We'll talk about your qualifying lap as well because it seems to get you hooked in quite a lot. Your second to last lap was enough for pole, and so was your last lap as well. We didn't think you can get quicker, but you got quicker. Why do you think you were so confident about this track? Because you did say last week that Singapore seemed to be more comfortable than Spain.
Yeah, I don't know. It was always a good track for me, and feeling confident around here, and yeah, it's just a good track for me.
Yeah, because you were pulling away at the start. You had nothing to lose. Pretty much you're the only driver to not be involved in the battle. We didn't see much of you in that race. I think the only way that things could have got worse for you was that safety car. When that safety car came out, what was the focus in your mind? Did you think you were able to have that similar gap than you did before that safety car?
Yeah, I know it was Kasisl who DNF'd and he was second, so maybe the driver with the second most pace, and so I knew I could get the gap again.
Yes, fair enough. And also you had drivers that gambled and stayed on the hard tyres, which paid off for quite a lot of them, but you were able to get past, and then the ones who gambled and went on to the medium tyres. I know you were keen to get past straight away, but what was key to make sure you didn't get in a tangle with any of them? Because it seemed to me you made it look easy.
Yeah, I mean, the tire advantage was very big for me, and it were very easy moves, and yeah, and most of them let me by, so very easy moves.
Yeah, and for the second time this season, I asked you questions, and you said, what was your expectation? You said podium. So it's the second week in a row where you've downplayed your expectations, and you went on to get 2 places better. So, well, big congratulations to you. Aidan, I'll hand over to you now.
I don't really know what really else to say to you, Max. It's been an amazing start to the season for you. It's been an almost perfect start for the season for you. Brilliant start for you. I guess really for now, for the rest of the season, you definitely look like the favourite for the championship. Not to put too much pressure on you, but you definitely look like the favourite. Does your mindset change now after these first 2 rounds of the season? Of course, obviously coming in as the F3 champion, you maybe weren't expecting to be this competitive to start off the season. So has the mindset changed a little bit going forwards?
Yeah, maybe a bit. I wasn't expecting to fight for the championship this season, but yeah, I'm now focusing on it, and yeah.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of a mindset shift for you. But last question for me. I'll ask the question I asked the other 2 drivers that finished on the podium today. Le Castellet next week. I'm sure you'll say you'll probably get a podium, but is it going to be another win for you next time out?
Yeah, hopefully. It was a decent track always for me, so I don't know. It could be a win again, but
That's more like it.
He said that now. He's
no.
probably going to jinx himself. Yeah, that's
Aw.
congratulations. Yeah, congratulations on another win, Max. And yeah, look forward to seeing what you can do next week.
Yeah, thank you.
Right, it was very interesting, Aidan, to hear from our top 3 and to see their perspectives as well. I think quite a lot of drivers weren't expecting it, and a few people were quite happy about it as well. And yeah, quite a stellar race. Thank goodness, though, there was no rain, because otherwise we would have been way over an hour because we had that safety car. But luckily, it stayed dry the whole way through, and you were hoping for a mixture of strategies, and my oh my, we did get a mixture of strategies here tonight.
Yeah, thank God we did. I think that's like I said it a couple of times already, but that's what we want to see. Is we want to see a mixture of strategies. A mixture of strategies always makes the races more interesting. It adds a new dynamic, and it's something that we want to see from these drivers, to see how they manage different strategies and what strategies work better for different people. Whether people are better at doing something that's maybe a little bit out of the box and going for the faster tyre first, or maybe doing a 2-stop on tracks that warrant it being a faster strategy. I mean, we've seen it in previous games where tracks like Canada and Mexico, it was better to be on a 2-stop strategy than a 1-stop. But if you wanted to do a 1-stop, you could make it work. That's what we want to see. So hopefully from F1 23 we can see that a bit more, and we can see these drivers doing these different strategies, because obviously it means that the drivers can maybe have another strength to add a different strength to their book. So they maybe don't have the outright speed, but they have really good race smarts and a really good strategy. And we saw that, of course, today. People like Marlon, of course, kind of overwriting his own engineer as to what he wanted to do. But that's what it is, because he knew what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was doing strategy-wise. He knew what would work for him, and it worked for him, and it paid off, and it worked brilliantly. So I'd like to hope that we can see a lot more of that in the future.
Yeah, I hope so as well. And obviously, France next week as well. A very technical track where there's a lot of understeery moments as well. A track where a lot of people can get time penalties. A track where there does not much overtaking in real life, but it makes some very, very good league racing. I think we could be an exciting one. I think there could be some rain involved. I know we say that every week, but I think we could see it. It's more than likely than Singapore to get rain in France. So I think for the first time in a while, I really do hope we see rain in France, because it makes it more interesting.
Yeah, it definitely does, and it'll be a new challenge. We haven't had any rain yet so far this season, and of course in the past we've had rain merchants. Of course, we have to talk about people like Legend being so good in the rain. So we haven't really seen if there is a wet merchant yet in this championship, and we could have a wet race next week and Mats could win by 20 seconds instead of 10. So we never know, something could happen. But yeah, the Castellet is an interesting track, like you say. Time penalties are going to be interesting for that one. It's one of those tracks where you can do side-by-side racing for quite a while. There's not that many corners, but the corners are very long, so you can take different lines, and that promotes really, really good racing. So yeah, Le Castellet is going to be an interesting one. So hopefully it's a good race next time out. But I don't think we can bank on a safety car to warrant anything being a bit different, because the runoff there is ridiculous, as we talk about many times when we go there.
Yep, exactly. Make sure you join us next week for the French Grand Prix. But we still got some more PSGL action this week. PCF1 will be at France on Wednesday. Then the PC lower tiers will be there on Thursday. And it'll be ourselves on Monday at 8 p.m. UK time. Will Max be able to get it free for free next week? Or will we see someone else challenge for the race victory? Will Nando get his first race victory? Will the likes of Aurelian and the ones who did well last week, Markados, get their first race victory? We don't know yet. It all remains to be seen here in PSGL PSF1. Make sure you stay tuned. A final reminder to check out our sponsors, GT Omega. 5% off GT Omega products by using the code PSGL. Link is in the description, or you can use the command at !GT Omega. Check out our socials at PremierSimGL on Twitter and Instagram. Like us, like the video, subscribe to us on YouTube as well, and follow us for all the latest gossip and races. So for myself and Aiden, we'll leave you with our sponsors for one more time. Have a good evening, and we'll see you next week for the French Grand Prix. Until then, bye-bye.
This broadcast was brought to you by GT Omega, proudly supporting PSGL.